Hey everyone, it's Heather with Lead the Way Canine Training, and this video is going to go over all the features and how to use your Ecollar Technologies Mini Educator e-collar. This is what your box looks like. Alright, and then inside the box you have your remote, and the remotes come in a variety of colors. You can order them in whatever color you like. I like to get the black because I think it looks kind of cool. And then your actual collar. Okay. Other things that you're going to need in the box are your charger. It's rechargeable. Okay, and we'll go over charging and all that stuff in just a minute. Let's start with the important stuff. How do you turn this thing on? Alright, so turning it on and off is really simple. You're going to turn them on and off separately. They each need to be turned on and off individually. Alright, the remote on the back. There's this button right here. You see how it says on, off, and light? That's the button you're looking for. You're going to push it and you're going to hold it until your screen lights up and you see it said on real quick. Now your remote is on. Okay? You're going to do the same thing. I'm going to push and hold that same button until it shuts off. Okay? And now it's off. Alright. For your collar, there's no button, but what there is this little red dot here. And you'll notice there is a matching red dot on the remote. So what you need to do is you need to pair them together. Alright, so what you're going to do, I'll turn this so you can see, you're going to touch those together and you notice the light on the collar turns green and it will continue intermittently flashing green to let you know it's on. Alright, you can do the same thing, hold it for a second, turns red, and there should be no follow-up flashing, and now it's off. Alright, that's all there is to it. Okay? I'll turn this back on for you. Okay, so other features. How do you control the level of the e-collar? You'll see on the display that it says 0, and you're going to use the dial at the top to adjust your level. You just kind of turn it and it's a smooth dial, it doesn't click into place. These collars go from a level 0 all the way up to 100. But what it says on the display is high. So it goes, I'll show you, 99 and then high, because that's as high as it goes. Alright? The other thing that you can do with this dial is you can lock the level. I don't recommend doing that when you're new to learning how your e-collar works, because in your sessions you're going to be adjusting a little bit here and there, up and down. You're going to be fine-tuning throughout your session or from day to day. And you want your timing to be good, so you don't want to have to unlock it every time you need to adjust the level. But I do recommend locking the level if you have little kids at home, or maybe grandkids that come and visit, and you don't want them to turn it all the way up and start pushing buttons if they find it on the counter or something like that. So what you can do is you can lock the level. I'll show you. I'll turn it to 30 just for this demonstration. You're going to push and hold it until it flashes. And now when I turn the dial, you see nothing happens. All right, so it's locked in at 30. And to unlock it, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to push it, hold it until it flashes, and now I can adjust it. Now, like I said, I don't recommend doing that until you're more familiar with your e-collar. And honestly, most dogs are going to need some fine-tuning when you're working with them. It's the rare dog that you never have to adjust. I've never actually met a dog that is one level and one level only in all situations. But like I said, if you have small hands at home, it might be a good idea to lock it. You can lock it all the way down. Actually, you can't lock it at 0. That's right. So you can set it to like 1 or 2, right, and lock it. And then now they can't adjust it. I explain that because inadvertently people tend to do it, and then I get a frantic email or phone call a couple days after we do our first session with the e-collar, and the client thinks they broke their e-collar because they can't adjust the level. Alright, so the button on this side, okay, says a T. It's a vibrate and a tone function. It comes out of the box set to vibrate, but you can adjust it so that there's an audible noise or a tone function. Okay, and so when I push that button, can you hear it? Basically it vibrates like, old pagers used to. Okay, there's no adjusting that level, so if I have that really low or really high, it's the same level of vibration. Same thing, the noise doesn't get loud, the tone doesn't get louder or quieter. So it's really not useful, that vibration setting. We don't use that to train the dogs because most dogs find that level of vibration really offensive and startling. And you'll notice if you push that the first time, most of the dogs will jump out of their skin. And then occasionally you meet a dog that they don't care about it, and there's no way to turn it up. So I use that really just to check that the collar's on before I put the collar on the dog, because trying to pair those two red dots on like a fluffy or a wiggly moving target of a dog is really difficult. So make sure it's on before you put it on the dog. Okay, other buttons, the buttons that we're going to care about are the stimulation buttons, and those are the ones on the other side. There's 2 of them, okay, and they say S because they're stimulation buttons. There's a black one on top and there's a red one on bottom. All right, that's because there's 2 modes that you can set your e-collar to. Again, out of the box, it comes set to both of them. So the top button is momentary and the red button is going to be continuous. And what that means is when you push the button in momentary, it only gives one quick touch of stimulation. It's, I think, 1/25th of 1 second worth of stimulation. And the red button set to continuous, you can push the button and hold it down and it gives a continuous pulsing sensation. More like, if you've ever had a TENS unit, which is what these feel like, that's kind of generally the setting that they have it on, where you're having kind of this continuous sensation. All right, so I'll show you. When I push the black button, which is the momentary down, it flashes really quick, even though I haven't let go. And if I push the red button, which is the continuous function, right, it's still going. And it will go until it has a timed shut off. There you go, okay. Now, you know what they're set to, what modes they're set to by looking at your screen. So there's both an M and a C on the screen, which means top button's momentary, bottom button, the red button, is continuous, okay? You can change it so that both buttons are continuous, both buttons are momentary. And what that does is it changes the red button to a boost function, which means it turns the level of the stimulation up. Out of the box setting is +5, but you can custom set that to be any number, +11, +22, whatever. And there's directions on how to do that in your manual in your box. Or, and here's another important thing that you should know, your Ecollar Technologies toll-free 855 number, that's their customer service number, is on the back of every remote. And if you have any questions about, warranty issues, replacement issues, or just questions about programming, how do you change the programming from all momentary to all continuous? How do you change the vibration to a tone? They're always very happy to help you with those issues. They're wonderful. That is one of the selling points to this brand of e-collars. Obviously the technology is really good and I really like the quality of the equipment, but the bonus is that their customer service is far and above superior to any other e-collar manufacturers out there. So they're US based, so they're easy to talk to. You don't have to go through like a 10-minute automated phone menu to get to an actual human being. So a big selling point for me. And they're really good. They stand by their customers. If there's something wrong with your collar, they will replace it, or they will figure out why it's not working. Excuse me. So remember that number. Use that if you have any questions, if you can't figure something out. Obviously, my clients, I always tell them, if you have a question, just give me a call or shoot me a text. But for anybody out there that is doing this by themselves, that's a good number to have on hand. Okay, so we've talked about, the vibrate and tone function. We've talked about how you adjust your level with the dial and how you can lock that level in. This is the antenna. For anyone wondering if this does anything, it's just the antenna. Okay, and then these are your stimulation buttons. All right, a couple of other things to talk about is you'll notice on the screen, I'm going to turn the dial so you can have it light up again. There's a 1D blinking on the top of the screen, and what that means is this is a 1-dog model. So you can order it as a 2-dog model, or later on you can add a second collar. So that would make one of the buttons controls dog A, one of the buttons controls dog B. And you have to change the programming to 2D or 2-dog programming. So if you're using this as a 1-dog unit, and you see that it doesn't say 1D, it will say 2D, you've somehow inadvertently reprogrammed it to thinking that there's a second collar out there. And so that's an issue. I've had that happen once where I showed up to a client's house and they only had one dog and it was set to 2D. And so what that meant is they'd been practicing and one of the buttons that they thought they were using wasn't working, right? So they're pushing the top button, it's working with their dog, and the bottom button thinks there's like an imaginary dog out there with a second collar. And so you just want to make sure it's set to the right programming. I've only seen somebody accidentally do that once, but it can happen. Now, on the back of your remote, a couple other things to mention. We already talked about the on-off button. There's that customer service number on there. And then this small button right here, if you guys can see it, says M and C, and that's the button that you're going to use to change the programming or the modes for the side buttons. So like I said, it has both M and C, so that means the top button is momentary, bottom button is continuous. If I push and hold that little button in the back, it's going to beep. And then you notice that now it just says M, that C went away on this side. So both buttons are momentary. So it's set at 22 just because that's where it's at right now. I'm going to push the top button, it's 22 momentary. If I push the bottom button, the red button, it jumps to 27 momentary, right? So like I said, out of the box, it's +5, okay? I'm going to do it one more time. Hold that back button down. Now they're both continuous, right? So top button is continuous, what it's set on the screen. The bottom button, the red button, is now a boost function, and it goes to continuous 27. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And then to get it back to the way we had it, you're going to hold it down one more time. So now top button is momentary at the level on the screen, bottom button is continuous level, we have it on the screen. Okay, I like people to leave it this way when they're first getting comfortable with the e-collar. I don't like them to use the boost function until they are more familiar and have some muscle memory for pushing the right button at the right time, because you don't want to inadvertently hit the boost function when you're in the very early stages of conditioning the collar with your dog. Okay, so I tell my clients that they should leave it how this is set with M and C on the screen. Okay. There's also another function of this collar, and that is back here. It says light. So what that means is you can turn the light on the collar. All right, so remember when we turned this on and off, we pushed and held that button, that on-off button. What we're going to do instead of pushing and holding it is I'm just going to click it real fast, and that turns the light on. Okay, and the first setting is just this blinking strobe light. If I want, I can click it one more time and it goes to a solid light. Okay, and then if I click it a third time, it turns back off. So it's just a flashlight function. It has really no use in training. It's just a human convenience feature. It's nice if, you know, you live somewhere where there's not a lot of street lights and you walk your dog late at night, you know, you can turn that on, you're more visible to traffic, or, you know, if you have a big backyard or you have land and you want to see where your dog is in the dark when they're wandering around the yard, you can turn that on. All right. Something to note though, don't leave that on during the day when you don't mean to use it, because just like your cell phone flashlight app, that flashlight, leaving it on will drain the battery of this a lot faster. Okay, so that brings us to battery life and charging. So the battery on these guys should last anywhere from like 2 to 3 days, depending on how often you're using and how often you're pushing the buttons and what level you're using. So using higher levels drains the battery a little bit faster than using lower levels. Okay, I recommend to my clients that they just get in the habit of putting these on the charger every other night when they go to bed. It doesn't actually need to stay on the charger that long overnight. It charges pretty quick in about 2 hours, but it's just easiest to throw it on the charger, just like most people do with their cell phone. You plug it in, you go to bed, and it's good to go when you wake up in the morning, okay? So how you charge it is there's a flap on the back of your remote. There's also a flap on the back right here, okay? And you just plug in to both, and you plug it into an outlet. What you will see when you plug this into an outlet and they're both connected is that that indicator light will turn a solid red when it's charging, and then when the battery is fully charged and it's good to go, it will turn to a solid green. Okay, so that's one way to know what your battery life is at. Okay, another way to know about your battery life is these indicator lights will blink green like they are right now to tell you the battery is fully charged, you're good to go. That indicator light will turn to an orange kind of amber color when the battery is starting to die, and it will blink red a little bit right before it's dead. Okay, I want to show you guys a couple of things that we do to make the e-collars a little bit easier for us to use and for the dogs to wear. So the first thing that I like to do is get a carabiner clip and get a little key ring, and that's what I attach the e-collar to. There's this little thing right here, you can attach it, and then that allows me to clip it to my waistband or my belt loop or whatever, and it's readily available on my person anytime that my dog is wearing the e-collar. So that is a habit you guys want to get into, is having this on you all the time when your dog is out of its crate. Okay, so if there's ever a possibility you might need to use it, have it on your person. Okay, if you have multiple people at home that are going to be training the dog or that are in charge of the dog, then you're going to hand it off. So one person is on dog duty at a time. So, you know, if you're training or you're watching the dog and then you have to get up and, you know, go to the bathroom or go do something and you can't watch the dog, then hand it off to whoever the other adult is in the room. Okay. Other things that we like to do is, out of the box it comes on this like buckle collar. I like to switch it over to these bungee collars, okay, because it's stretchy. All right, so it makes getting it on and getting a snug fit without being too snug easier. It's more comfortable. It's easier to get on wiggly dogs. So what it looks like right on the collar is like this. So you just pull the receiver off of the strap, unscrew one of these screws, slide it on, rethread it all, and you're good to go. Okay, and you can get these bungee e-collar straps from a variety of different places online. There's a couple of different variations. This is my favorite one with the solid strap and then the bungee cord on it. Okay. Other things that I like to do is, if you have a dog that has a really long or dense coat, the short contact points that come on this out of the box are probably not going to work really well for you, and you're going to have a hard time getting consistent contact with the e-collar to your dog's skin. So there's a couple of different contact points you can order in addition to your e-collar. And this is something that I do for my clients when we have a dog that needs these kind of things. So the first one is for, like I said, long-haired or really dense-coated, you know, your shepherds, your huskies, the really thick, you know, double-coated breeds. These winged contact points are amazing. They're so much better than the longer contact points you can order. I never use long contact points. If I need to use something other than the contact points that it comes standard in the box for long hair, I use these guys. Okay, and I'll show you what it looks like. So on the collar, right? So you just take off the old contact points and replace it with this one. So we have a husky at home. Our personal dog, one of our dogs is a husky, and so this is her collar, and it works amazing. Before they had these kind of things, really the best way to get contact with thick-coated dogs was you would have to shave spots on their neck, and my husband would kill me if I did that to his dog, so we got these, and they work really well. Okay. For your short hair dogs, or for your smaller dogs that just have really small necks, you know, they don't have a lot of width on their neck, these contact or comfort pads, the short comfort pads, work really well. And the same thing, you just screw off the standard contact points and replace it with this. And these work really well for getting better contact. If you have dogs that have more sensitive skin and they get irritated by wearing things around their neck, this also comes in titanium. This is just the regular comfort pad, but they do make a titanium one. They also make regular titanium contact points. So if you have a dog that's got really sensitive skin or has allergies to the metal and the regular contact points, go with the titanium. But these are my two go-tos, either the wings for the really thick, long-coated dogs, or for short-haired dogs that have more sensitive skin, or for the smaller dogs, like when I have dogs like little Shih Tzus, or we have a little rat terrier that we're going to be doing training with, and I ordered one of these for him just because they have really short hair and they tend to have a little bit more sensitive skin. And he's kind of little, so this is what we're going to put on his. And those are things that you can order right from Ecollar Technologies. Their website is ecollar.com. Or obviously, if you're a client working with me, I will provide these. Okay. things to remember besides how the collar works and what the features are that anytime you're using your e-collar for training with your dog, anytime you're pushing the button, your dog should be on a leash or a long line until you have gotten to the point in your training where the dog understands what it means, is conditioned to the e-collar, knows how to respond when it feels that e-collar stimulation, and then you can start weaning off of using that leash. But that leash is really important in the first probably 1 to 2 weeks at least. So I always tell my clients, if I catch you pushing buttons, you know, in the first week or so and the dog doesn't have a leash on, I'm going to be upset because you're going to inadvertently mess up your training, because your dog is going to have moments of understanding what it means and he's going to do really well, and then you get tempted to just push the button to call your dog from the backyard, or maybe he's barking at a squirrel and you want to call him away from the window, but your leash isn't on. What's going to happen is he's either not going to know what to do because it's still new and you know, you have moments of confusion, or you know, he'll do something like he'll try to run away from it because he doesn't understand it and he just feels the sensation on his neck. Or what other dogs will do is they'll just freeze in place and they won't move at all, and so then you have to go and get them. So that leash is really important. Also, like I said, contact needs to be really snug, so that's why I like to use the bungee straps. If you put the collar on your dog, right, and you snug it up and he runs around for 2 minutes and it shifts position and now it's like lower on his neck and it's not, you know, up to the side or, you know, behind his neck, then it's too loose, right? It should not be moving on its own around your dog's neck with him just doing normal movement. Now, if a dog's like really vigorously scratching at his neck, sometimes it'll move a little bit. But it should not be moving when he's running around. It's too loose. And if it's too loose, it means these contact points are not making constant contact. And if one of the points isn't touching, then he's not going to feel anything. You can turn this all the way up, and if only one contact point is making contact with skin, he's not going to feel anything. So try it yourself. Turn this all the way up. Just put your finger on one of these. You won't feel anything. Okay? Needs to have good contact. Now, because it needs to be snug and you need to make sure that you're having good constant contact, I really recommend that you rotate the location of the collar a couple of times a day. So every 2 to 4 hours, depending on your dog's sensitivity. Dogs that have really sensitive skin, I would say, you know, every 2 hours religiously as much as you can. Loosen it up, shift it over to the other side of the neck, move it a couple of inches, and then re-snug it up. So we don't want the e-collar sitting up against their skin, being all snug for 8, 10, 12 hours at a time. You risk the chance of getting irritation, called a pressure sore or pressure necrosis. Basically, it's the same thing that like people that are bedbound in hospitals, you know, they get pressure sores, and so the nurses have to shift them around so that they don't get that. Other types of irritation you could potentially see with this, just like any other kind of collar or harness, would be a hot spot. So if your dog's a swimmer, or if you have a really thick-coated dog, long-haired dog, and they get wet, you know, you get caught in a downpour. When you get back home or when you're done with your training, take the collar off, let it dry out, make sure it's clean, wipe it off, and then make sure the dog dries out and their coat is dry before you use it again. You don't want this, again, sitting in one place, holding moisture up against their skin, because you run the risk of, you know, a hot spot, and that's going to cause them irritation. This collar is totally waterproof. I didn't mention that yet. So their dog totally can go swimming, or if you are out in the rain, you can definitely still use this in training. You're not going to electrocute them. It's not electricity in the sense that it's, you know, a live current, so you don't have to worry about that. The range for this, as you can see on the box, is a half a mile. So definitely plenty far enough for most people. They do make collars that go up to 3/4 mile, and I think they do have a model that goes up to 1 mile, unless you're doing like duck hunting or you know, hunting out in the woods with your dog. You really don't need more than a half a mile. You know, most dog owners and pet owners, your dog should not be that far from you. So half mile, plenty of range for this. Okay. Okay, so waterproof, half a mile. We talked about using your leash. We talked about having the remote on your person anytime your dog is out wearing the e-collar out of its crate. And I think that's it. That's the important stuff to pay attention to. So if you guys have any questions, like I said, you have your customer service number for any, you know, issues. There's the user's manual inside your box. But for my clients, if you have questions, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, and I will get you an answer ASAP. Don't wait until I see you at our next lesson to ask me these questions. All right, guys, I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, I'm going to post this on YouTube, and you guys can comment and ask any questions below, and I will get your answers.